What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Week 11 NFL Power Rankings. Man, is this season just flying by. We got a great show ahead here. Please do hit that like button down below if you enjoy. It is the easiest way to support my channel and share the video, so I appreciate you taking a second to hit that thumbs up down below. All right, starting at the bottom, the New York Jets. It's a great week not to talk about the Jets. They were on bye, so let's move on. The Washington football team is going to stay put at 31. They did put up a fight against the Detroit Lions, but not much to really say. I will say Alex Smith did look pretty solid this week, 300 plus passing yards. They moved the ball. The defense, that pass rush was supposed to be this elite menacing unit. It just hasn't been that. They haven't been bad per se, but it just hasn't elevated that defense to a next level. It's just not a very good football team. There's really no way around it. And then speaking of not very good football teams, the Denver Broncos are going to drop down 3 spots. A lot of quiet Broncos fans the last couple of weeks. I don't expect a whole lot of apologies from Broncos fans. That's fine. I did come on here and say that Drew Lock just really is not a good quarterback. There's not really any way around it. He is a backup quarterback right now with some traits trying to show that he might be a starter. If you want to sit around and wait for 2+ years to maybe find out if he's the guy, you can have that blind faith, but he just isn't getting the job done. He was bad again this week. And then you throw in all of the injuries on top. The Broncos, to me, are a bottom-tier football team. And in this bottom tier of teams that very well, to me, could be picking in the top 4 looking at quarterbacks in this draft class. And that's going to round out with the Jacksonville Jaguars staying put at number 29. They did put up a fight against the Green Bay Packers, but Jake Luton, my guy, didn't really look that great this week. Looked more like that backup 6th-round quarterback. They've got some playmakers on offense. They got some young defenders, but all in all, just not a good football team. If these 4 teams were picking with the top 4 picks in the upcoming draft class and went quarterback back to back to back to back, honestly, wouldn't stun me. Then we have a tier gap up, and this is going to sound strange, but the Dallas Cowboys are actually going to climb up 2 spots. And, I get it. They were on bye. They haven't really proved anything here, but I really do think that this bye week, the fact that the Eagles lost this week, getting Andy Dalton back, which, again, not many people are going to think that that's much, but I think internally they look at that as, all right, we at least have a starting caliber quarterback with experience. We have an opportunity to kind of reset here in the second half of the season with an opportunity to maybe make the playoffs. I do think that we're going to see a much better Cowboys team down the stretch. Their final game, or their last game rather, they really put up a fight against one of the best teams in the league in the Steelers. So I do think stock is up for the Cowboys off the bye week. Then we have the San Francisco 49 IRs. Just the whole team is on IR. Kyle Shanahan can only do so much. They actually came out and put up a fight early against the Saints, but not much to really say here. This team is just not very competitive right now with the state of this roster. And then the Philadelphia Eagles at number 26. It is time, man. I've held some belief in this team. We had them at 17 last week in their own kind of tier because I thought they were going to kind of run away with the NFC East. I thought they would, not convincingly, but I thought they would for sure beat the Giants. And it's just more of the same. This team doesn't want to fix anything here. Doug Pederson has to be the most overrated coach in the league right now. Week after week, they have no game plan. It's the same play calling every week, and it never works. Carson Wentz has been terrible. Slow decisions, turnovers, inaccurate, all of it. I'm a huge Carson Wentz stan, if you will. But man, I can't stand him any longer, at least for this season. And that's going to lead us to the New York Giants at number 25. So the top ranking team in the NFC East is coming in at 25 in the power rankings. My goodness, what a waste of space the NFC East is. The 5 seed in the NFC, what a gift that's going to be. You get to play the NFC East representative. I won't even give them the cadence of calling them a champion. But yeah, the 5 seed gets a bye without having to risk a real bye and come into the divisional round cold. What a gift that 5 seed in the NFC East, the 5 seed in the NFC is to get to play the winner of the NFC East. My goodness. The one thing we'll say about the Giants is Joe Judge has done a really nice job here. I didn't even think the Giants would get to 3 wins this year, honestly. So here they are I think they sit here with the best coach in the NFC East, and honestly, crazy to say, Daniel Jones, after what he's shown the last 2 weeks, honestly, I don't even think it's close. The best quarterback in the NFC East right now. So the best coach-quarterback combination. They're coming from behind a little bit here as far as the standings go, but the Giants just might be winning that NFC East, which is just insane. Then we have a run of teams here that not a whole lot is changing. The Texans are going to drop down 2 spots here. Some concerns about how the offense looked against Cleveland. They were competitive, which is why they're kind of, in this 24 spot. They're not an easy out, and if this defense plays like that every week, they're definitely not an easy out, because I do think this offense will go back to being pretty good with Deshaun Watson, but it was just not a good week for the Texans. They're going to drop down 2 spots. Then the Detroit Lions are going to climb up 2. Not much to really add on this team. The analysis on the Lions has not changed for 3 straight years. They've hovered between 26 and 20. Honestly, man, there's just so little to say about the Lions. It's call it lazy analysis, but I've just run out of things to say. It really is that. I watch every game, and it feels the same every single week. This team just feels like they're going nowhere. Then the Panthers climbing up a spot with the Texans dropping down. They put up a good fight against the Bucs early. The Panthers continue to be kind of what we knew them to be. Solid offense, young defense, really got lit up by the Bucs this week. Couldn't really hang, but they are going to climb up a spot just because I think they're a better team than the Texans right now. Then the Falcons are going to stay put on bye. We know they can move the ball. The defense has been trying lately for whatever that's worth. They're going to stay put. And then the LA Chargers are going to stay put at 20 as well. This was definitely Justin Herbert's worst game as a Charger. It was not particularly pretty. You can see in games when those big plays aren't there, the play-to-play consistency just isn't quite there with Justin Herbert yet. He's still young. I think he can get there, but if you want a criticism of him, that's what it's going to be. But that, Justin Herbert is not why they lost this game. Special teams continue to be just a tragedy for this team. The defense was not particularly good. They just got outplayed, outcoached, outmatched by the Dolphins this week, but they're still a very tough team. Their record is way worse than how good this team is, and I still feel the same way about the Cincinnati Bengals. They ran into a terrible matchup here this week. The best defensive line against the worst offensive line. That's never going to be easy no matter who you are. I will say this game was not as bad as the final score indicated. You had 2 just terrible fumbles by the Bengals. As soon as they kind of captured any momentum, they gave up critical fumbles in this game. But overall, just the defense did not make any critical stops. They were not able to put a full drive together for the most part. Burrow was running for his life, and Burrow honestly was not all that bad in this game, all things considered. I think he did as good of a job as he could to keep this team in this game alive. But anyway, I think the Bengals have brighter days ahead. In that 19 through 21 spots, they're going to stay put. So now we have a tier gap up into some much more interesting conversations, because I think any team that we have left to talk about can make the playoffs, and that's going to start with the New England Patriots. So they're going to climb up 6 spots, and I don't want to talk down on the Patriots. It was a big week for them, knocking off the Ravens. Now, Patriots fans can hate me for this or agree with me. It's do whatever you want with what anything I say. But that game, that climate, the weather in this game against the Ravens on Sunday Night Football, we all saw it. It was a total monsoon. You could barely see 5 feet in front of you. If the Patriots could get those conditions every single week, they'd probably win the Super Bowl, because if any team benefits more from a game where you literally can't throw the ball more than 15 yards downfield and you have to run the ball and just play disciplined, all across the board, that benefits the Patriots probably more than anyone in the league, who have a quarterback that just can't really throw the ball more than 10 yards downfield, and when he does, he has to put everything he possibly has into it, and then they just don't have the receivers to go vertical either. They have a great offensive line. They have tough physical runners. They have a disciplined defense. The Patriots, if they could win every game 20-17 or whatever the final score of this one was, and just take care of the football and play smart, disciplined football, it's the Patriots. So, they figured out their identity here. This is kind of what Bill Belichick teams have always done, is figured out who they are and just go with it down the stretch. I think they're going to be a tough team, probably too far behind to make the playoffs, but they're a tough team right now. Then the Chicago Bears, who have now dropped, 3 in a row? Ever since the Bears fans wanted to be ranked in the top 10, and I said, hold on, it's kind of hard to win games consistently when you can't score points, and my God, has that played out. But inversely, they haven't fallen too far because this is, the Bears are who we thought they were. They're going to have every single game. For the most part, they're going to keep their opponent under 20 points, which is great. This defense is incredible. It just might be the best defense in the NFL, but they also just might have the worst offense in the NFL. How this team thought Nick Foles was going to be an answer, it's just beyond me, man. I just don't get it. Just terrible team building there. It's cost this team their season yet again. You can't tell me Jameis Winston wouldn't make this offense and this team just more interesting, more explosive, higher upside, all that. The Bears are in a tough spot right now. They're not completely out of the race here, but they're going to need things to pretty much go perfectly down the stretch for them. And then we have the Minnesota Vikings climbing up 2 spots. This is the last month for this team. If they could just rewind the clock and start the season over and get this team at the start of September, it just might be a playoff team. But they dug themselves in a huge hole, and they're trying to climb themselves out of it. They're 4-5 now. Their schedule is not that bad, so don't write the Vikings off just yet. They're figuring some nice things out on defense as well as the season goes on. Credit to Mike Zimmer. So the Vikings right at 16 and could very well be climbing if they keep winning. If they can get to 6-5, this is going to get really interesting for the Vikes. Then we have a tier gap up to teams that are just, in better position and frankly just have been better on the course of the season. So that's going to start with the Cleveland Browns. They continue to win despite the injuries stacking up there. This run game is just so impressive. Kevin Stefanski, Nick Chubb, this offensive line. Baker, is there a quarterback that's had to do less for their team than Baker Mayfield this year? It's not really a knock on him, but it's certainly not a plus for Baker Mayfield. It's fine. He basically just hands the ball off, and this defense is putting things together. Myles Garrett was unbelievable this week. So the Browns staying put at 15. The Miami Dolphins, I know Dolphins fans are going to want to climb up after an impressive win this week against the Chargers. I'm just going to, acknowledge that things are looking really good for the Dolphins. As far as moving them up higher here, things are looking pretty good for a lot of these teams that I have had ranked above them. I feel pretty good about this 14th spot, but I also think that they're in good position to make a playoff push here. Tua looks great. People have been really wondering what my take on Tua is right now. What am I seeing? It's tough. He honestly is a very unique player. I can't give you a clean comparison for him. The way I've described him right now is he's like the love child of if Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, and Alex Smith had a baby. So take some combination of traits with those quarterbacks and throw them all together. He looks really fluid athletically, which is probably the biggest plus on what would have been my college scouting report on him. He's really moving around. He's tough to get your hands on, and Miami's doing a great job calling up play calls to kind of get him on the move, get him out from under this terrible offensive line, and he's taking care of the football. There hasn't been a lot of explosive passing there from Tua, and honestly, that's never something that I truly expected from him. I always kind of had him as this Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo-esque passer, but the athletic traits are nice, and you're seeing an increased upside with all of this with the Dolphins, and their defense continues to be incredible. Brian Flores learning from the best. As far as Bill Belichick and special teams and attention to details, you're really seeing that shine through here in Miami, and it's cool to see it replicated down south. So lots of good things for the Dolphins. It just wasn't in the cards for them to move up in the power rankings this week. But yeah, a lot of reasons to be excited if you're a Dolphins fan. Then we got the Raiders, gonna drop down a spot just because there was another team that had an impressive week that is gonna climb over them. I have nothing bad to say about the Raiders either. Just business as usual this week. Took care of business against the Denver Broncos. The offense is really nice here. They got great playmakers. The defense is trying to put things together. They were just a much better team than the Broncos. Unfortunately, they're going to drop down a spot. Raiders fans won't like it, but it is what it is. So those 3 teams are going to stay in that tier gap there. Those are really 3 teams that are playoff caliber teams that are going to be scrapping it out for those AFC wildcard spots. And it just might be that we soon put this next team in that tier with them, and that is the Tennessee Titans that have not looked great as of late. The biggest concern here to me is Ryan Tannehill is showing some of that regression back to the mean as far as him being more of that, 16 to 20 quarterback, not a top 10 guy. Maybe they turn it back around. I mean, they have excellent playmakers in front of them, but when they also don't have a great defense to complement things, it's just getting a little bit, spiraling out of control here for Tennessee, I would say. I still have faith in them to get one of those wild card spots. I think they just have a lot more talent as a roster than those other three teams we just talked about, and I do think they're well coached, and I do think Tannehill has shown enough to say that he's going to finish strong here, but it is getting dangerous here. They have now been blown out by the Colts and Bengals in 2 of the last 3 weeks. And it's starting to feel like this is a team that is maybe a little bit too reliant on getting those big explosive plays every week from guys like A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, that sometimes teams are just going to be able to limit those. And then what do they really have to lean on? Not a whole lot. But of course, when they are there, it looks outstanding. Then the Indianapolis Colts, they're going to stay put at 11. Another team, there's a lot of teams here that you would hope would have jumped up, but there's the teams around them happen to also play well this week. So the Colts are going to stay put at 11. The most important thing for them here is they are now the highest ranked team in their division. A huge win against the Titans. I want to say they took first place in the AFC South. And the fact that they showed that they can limit those big plays against Tennessee, they're going to play them again in a couple weeks. That bodes very well for them to take home that AFC South. Defense is just so rock steady. Colts fans came at me for saying they don't have an elite defense. They don't have elite playmakers. I'll stand by that. I don't think DeForest Buckner is an elite defensive tackle. I think Chris Jones, I think Aaron Donald, I think they're elite defensive tackles. I don't think DeForest Buckner is a consistent week-to-week game wrecker. And Darius Leonard, it's just hard to be that elite defender at the linebacker position. He might be a quote-unquote elite linebacker. You could argue that or not, but it's just difficult to be that true game wrecker on a week-to-week basis at the linebacker position. I only bring that up because Colts fans were really ticked off by that statement. But overall, it's just a super steady defense, and offensively, they get the job done. I wish they could run the ball a little better. Jonathan Taylor's been such a disappointment. But all in all, the Colts in really good position after that, frankly, blowout of the Tennessee Titans. Then the LA Rams going to climb up 3 spots. They're still going to rank below the Seahawks. I think they do match up really well with Seattle. Seattle, I want to say they've lost 5 out of the last 6 against the Rams. The Rams just match up really well. I mean, you have Aaron Donald to just blow stuff up and kind of force Russell Wilson out of his comfort zone. And then you have, even maybe more importantly, Jalen Ramsey to be maybe the only corner in the NFL that can match the size and speed and strength of DK Metcalf. And it really just forced Seattle off of their game. Russell Wilson was so uncomfortable this week. And inversely, the Rams can kind of bully this Seahawks front with the run game. So it's a great matchup for the Rams. If you want to look at a league-wide picture, I don't think that they're a better overall team than Seattle. They just match up really well with them. The Rams have had some issues over the last month, and I do think it's important to not completely lose sight of really Jared Goff being their quarterback if you want to talk about them as entering the Super Bowl conversation. But still a big win for the Rams this week, and the Cardinals are going to climb up a spot as well. So Rams, Cardinals fans, not going to like it because both these teams beat Seattle the last couple weeks. I still am taking Seattle, and we'll see this play out Thursday night. The Cardinals and Seahawks are going to play. My goodness, what a great Thursday night game. That's back-to-back weeks now. We've got some Thursday night battles. But yeah, the Cardinals are so fun. They were, a Hail Mary away from losing this week, so you do look at that. But the offense is figuring things out, which is just a thing of beauty. I think Kyler Murray now for 2 weeks in a row putting his name in the MVP hat. I don't think he's quite at the top yet, but man, he is just so special. DeAndre Hopkins is so special. I just love watching this team. They're figuring some things out defensively as well. Isaiah Simmons getting some more time out there. They got some big picks late in this game to get them back in it. The Cards climbing up a spot. The Hail Mary win was just fantastic. Goes to show you that Hail Marys not all luck. You look at the quarterbacks that convert on those. Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, often requires mobility, ability to escape sacks, and ability to accurately throw moon balls, which is just not easy to do. So anyway, the Cardinals up to number 9. And then the Bills, they're going to drop out of the Super Bowl tier. I don't know what it is, man. I just don't fully trust this team to win 4 straight weeks against playoff teams to go to the Super Bowl. I know they should have beat the Cardinals here, but some of those warts for Josh Allen showed up, and I know Josh Allen's been amazing, and you're a hater if you bring this stuff up, but it just feels true to me. Like, do I picture the Bills playing 4 straight outstanding games to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't. Do I think they're better than a crap ton of teams in this league and have an extremely explosive offense and are super fun to watch? Yes, absolutely. So, the Bills, they're going to stay put here at 8. Not a whole lot changed for me this week other than I just don't really think I would throw them in the Super Bowl conversation. It's kind of the same reason I had them at the bottom of that group last week. The Bills are going to be 8th this week. Then the Green Bay Packers, the Paper Tigers themselves, they're going to drop down a spot this week. This team just doesn't have a fear factor about them. They do have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, but as good as he's been, he doesn't have that same feel that he had in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2011, where when he took the field, you just kind of felt like you were on your heels and that he was just going to light you up. And it's not even so much his fault. This offense just is not an explosive offense. They are an outside zone running offense that's going to feed off of play action. And most importantly, they just don't have explosive receivers. Now, Marquez Valdes-Scantling did have his best week this week against the Jags. Do I expect that to continue? No, not really. I feel like the drops are just any minute waiting to happen with him. Maybe he figured it out. It was said time and time again. This team needs firepower on offense, and they just don't have it. Even Devontae Adams is not this explosive receiver. He is a really crafty, outstanding route runner, but he's not a big play waiting to happen, They just miss that part of their offense, and also defensively, they just aren't all that scary. I think without the crowd noise, this pass rush has regressed back to average. They don't have a bunch of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. So, I think they're kind of paper tigers. I have them at the bottom of the Super Bowl tier just because they do have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and you do stand a chance against anybody when he's on the field. They're at the bottom of this tier for me after almost losing to the Jags. That's another thing with this team is when you lack physical talent, you're going to play down to a team like the Jags quite often. Then the Baltimore Ravens are also going to drop down a spot. Hard to truly knock them when, they had this monsoon of a game. But I will say, man, last year's Ravens would have blown anybody out in those conditions. And I think it goes to show you that this run game just is not what it was last year. I think you look at the offensive line to blame for that. You also blame just other teams kind of figuring out their read option. I'm not afraid to call it gimmick offense. It's a team that made everything look a little bit different, but at its core, that read option, once you kind of get a key on what they like to do, it's a little easier to stop as long as you keep Lamar inside. And they've been trying to adapt all year, and they really struggled this week. It's not all Lamar's fault, although I don't think he's very comfortable as a passer, especially inside the pocket. And also throwing outside the numbers. It's just not his strong suit. But it goes beyond that. The offensive line is not very good. They don't have very good receivers here. But it's hard to really criticize those things in a game that was just impossible to pass. So the Ravens just don't have that fear factor this year. The fear factor from this team comes from the defense, but I'd much rather have that coming from the offense. But speaking of fear factor, it is still there with the Seattle Seahawks, who are going to drop down 2 spots here this week. It's hard not to drop them. Russell Wilson has put up some stinkers this week. He's been trying to do a little bit too much. I can't fully blame him. I will say, if you want some optimism here for the Seahawks, I actually think that this defense is going to correct some things. I think it's not time to panic. This is a good time of year to have some tough losses. They have all of the talent in the world on offense. It's not just Russell Wilson. They've got an outstanding receiving core. Their offensive line is better than you think. So I'm not worried about the offense at all. Are you? Are you really worried about the Seahawks offense moving forward just because they've had some hiccups? Because I'm definitely not. And this defense has all the signs in the world that they're going to get better. They played much better this week. They bring in Carlos Dunlap. They get Jamal Adams getting healthier out there, or at least trying to get healthy. I know he's still banged up, but come playoff time, I think he'll be 100%. They've been out a bunch of corners. Pete Carroll and this defense, they'll figure some things out how they already did this week. Russell Wilson is not going to be that bad every week. If you think he will, you're probably just a hater. So the Seahawks, to me, there's reasons for concern, but I think they'll be just fine, and I think they're absolutely Super Bowl contenders. And then one team that you can really get excited about is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coming off a week against the Saints where I think it's safe to say you can just chalk that up as a bad week and just hard to explain that one away, but just sometimes that happens. Teams just lay stinkers. Watching this team this week, granted not against the best Panthers defense, but watching this team with Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, healthy, flying around the field, Mike Evans, Gronk, an offensive line. I mean, honestly, Tom Brady wasn't even on this week, and I do worry a little bit about his deep ball, but God, it is just, I know it's been said before, but it's just a Madden offense, and then they have one of the best defenses in the league to complement it. It's just pretty crazy to see all this starting to click as we did this week. If they can get this ball rolling, they, to me, are the team that's best equipped to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That said, some new news coming up with Antonio Brown. He's got a hearing in a couple weeks. I don't know if we're going to see Antonio Brown with this team all the way into the playoffs. I'm not an expert on that subject. That's just going to be wait and see. Then the New Orleans Saints, they look so good. Drew Brees is going to miss some time here. I think, honestly, he might just sit the rest of the year. I don't know what their schedule looks like. I'm not that worried about it. I mean, this team honestly wasn't leaning on Drew Brees all that much. They have their playmakers healthy now, and Jameis just might give them a higher upside on offense. I'm not ready to go quite that far because, yeah, they might have some more explosive weeks, but also you're going to get some almost guaranteed inconsistency at that quarterback position that is tough to deal with on a week-to-week basis. But I am excited to see Jameis in this offense and see if he's kind of learned some things, and is he going to take care of the ball a little better, going from a Bruce Arians offense to the polar opposite in a Sean Payton offense. So I'm excited to see this kind of play out. I don't know when we'll get Drew Brees back. It doesn't matter all that much to me. I think the Saints are in really good shape. The defense is playing great. So the Saints in really good shape in the NFC. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers, going to stay put. They just bludgeoned the Cincinnati Bengals, as they should. Not a ton to add on the Steelers. I still think the Chiefs are a tier above the Steelers. Steelers fans hate it. They say, oh, we're the only undefeated team. Well, you know what? If you want the standings, don't watch a power rankings video. If you want to be number one, just go look at the standings, because congrats, you are undefeated. That's awesome. You're number 2 in my power rankings. If you play the Chiefs tomorrow or on Sunday or Thursday or Monday, whatever day it is, I think the Chiefs are at least 4-point favorites by me, by most experts around the league, by Las Vegas themselves. So the Chiefs, to me, most explosive team, most well-rounded team, most experienced team, and the team with the best quarterback in the NFL right now in Patrick Mahomes. So they're, to me, still a tier gap up, and those are your Week 11 power rankings. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. Cheers as always, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.